It is a great pleasure to be with you here. Very excited to talk about the new rules of marketing, technology, and operations. I love that Infoshare is an interdisciplinary conference because marketing and technology are combining in some really cool ways. I'm Scott Brinker. I'm the VP of Platform Ecosystem at HubSpot. I also have been writing a blog on this intersection of marketing and technology for over 10 years, chiefmartech.com. I'm also the fellow who has assembled over the years this crazy graphic of all the different marketing technologies I could find in the world. This started very humbly in 2011, found around 150 different technologies, and then every year it kept growing. 350, 1,000, 2,000, 3,500, 5,000. We actually nicknamed it the Martech 5,000. We thought, okay, well maybe that's peak Martech. But no, it kept growing. And even this year, 2019, over 7,000 solutions. And we know we didn't even find all of them because I keep hearing from the people we somehow failed to find. So it's fascinating, right? All this technology in marketing. What do we do with this? Well, a CMO council group last year found that increasingly marketers are using this for some very different missions, right? It's not just classic marketing, but it's increasingly managing customer experience and delivering ROI, return on investment, to the business. The scope of marketing is getting so much larger. So how do we deal with this, right? This is a big job. Well, a friend of mine, Doug Davidoff, he simplified it. He said, oh, okay, well, if you want to be able to harness marketing technology, you want to have focus and plumbing. I kind of like what he's saying there, but I don't know, this plumbing metaphor, I'm not sure it sends the message we want. When we talk about our marketing stack, we don't want to be like, oh, that's my marketing stack. No. But one of the ways we see marketing organizations adapting to this new technology that's at their fingertips is by actually changing the way their organization is structured, changing the way their organization works. Very exciting time to be in marketing. So what I wanted to share with you this morning is 5 rules, patterns that I've been seeing in how companies are adapting technology to change the way they run marketing. Okay, so these 5 rules. First, centralize everything you can. Second of all, automate everything you can. All right, so far so good. But then things get a little bit interesting. Decentralize everything you can. Humanize everything you can. And embrace continuous change. Now, if you're looking at this and you're thinking to yourself, well, wait a second. I'm not quite sure that makes sense. First of all, that's perfectly natural reaction. Augie Ray, who is a very famous analyst at Gartner, his reaction was you just put automate everything you can and humanize everything you can 2 places from each other. I can't decide if that's funny or sad. Okay, thank you, Augie. My reply to Augie would be, the test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold 2 opposed ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. And the truth is, marketing is balancing these seemingly opposing forces. And increasingly, that's where the magic is. All right, so we'll take a look at our balancing CMO here, marketing. All right, sorry about that. Let's talk about centralized and decentralized first, right? These seem like they would just be complete opposites. But increasingly, technology shows us how we can have both of these simultaneously. So if we consider a spectrum of centralized versus decentralized capabilities in our companies, we start to look at marketing technologies like content management systems. Well, the whole nature of a content management system is to have this centralized repository for content to be able to enforce brand standards in the way in which it is presented to the world. So it's a centralization technology, but by centralizing this, it allows us to empower more people throughout the marketing organization to leverage that, to produce content for blogs, for landing pages. It's actually empowering decentralized marketing. Customer data platforms, another hot topic in MarTech these days, right? It's a centralized data repository, a data hub, but it actually allows us to connect to many decentralized systems throughout the organization. Even things as simple as Google Sheets, right? You know, it's like standardizing on a technology for how we're going to collaborate, but by centralizing that technology choice, it actually makes it easier for teams to collaborate on an ad hoc basis. There's even a variation of this for something called Application Platform as a Service, APaaS. Now, I'll show you in a bit, is actually changing the entire capabilities of what marketers can do. So you can centralize with technology that empowers decentralized capabilities in your organization. So what about automate and humanize? Again, this feels like another one of these tensions. More of one is less of the other. What's interesting is automation, we're recognizing is a challenging thing to wrestle with, right? Years ago, Disney had the movie Fantasia, and there's a sequence at the end of Mickey Mouse. He gets the sorcerer's apprentice, the magic wand, and he has the broom go and start doing the chores for him. And this is the first example I could find of saying, hey, wow, automation, it's wonderful. But then you get these same brooms doing it again and again and again in a mindless way, and he realizes, whoa, this is terrible. You know, the entire castle is flooding. We see this sometimes in marketing today, right? Nurture campaigns, you know, where it's like sending someone an email on an automated basis. Great. And then another email, and then another email, and then another email. And at some point, the prospect stops feeling nurtured and starts feeling annoyed. And so this is one of our challenges with marketing as we leverage automation, is how do we find the human connection in this automation? And it's there, you just kind of have to look for it. I ran into this over the summer when I was taking my daughter to a concert, her first concert, a Taylor Swift concert. Yes, children can be very influential in music choices. And we were having some challenges with the tickets. And I went back and forth to the website and the mobile app and 2 different chatbots and 3 different helplines. And I kept connecting with various people who couldn't actually help me, even though they understood the problem. And it made me realize for all that technology that was being deployed at that company, it actually was making it harder to serve the customer. And so in thinking about this, right, when we talk about automation and efficiency, we have to ask ourselves, what are we trying to increase the efficiency of? Is it the efficiency of the company? Or is it the efficiency of the customer experience for the customer? Because these are 2 different axes, right? Like if you have something that's inefficient for the company and inefficient for the customer, in technical terms, this is a crappy experience. What we want, ideally, in the perfect world, is, hey, wow, that was efficient for the company and the customer. Now, in some cases, we do things that are not efficient for the company, but are a great experience for the customer. And sometimes those can actually be worth it, right? Those are the sort of brand experience moments that create loyalty over time. The one that's really scary is that upper left quadrant, where we implement things that become highly efficient for the company, but the experience for the customer doesn't get any better. In fact, it might actually get worse. It's very easy when we're using technology internally to automate things. We're automating to metrics that matter inside the company. We can lose sight of that customer experience. And I think this is one of the greatest challenges and opportunities for marketers, is to make sure as we're implementing this automation, we keep coming back to the lens of how does this make the customer experience better? You know, there's a saying that the map is not the train, right? Just because the representation of something isn't actually what it is in the real world. I would argue the marketing automation platform, the map, is not the customer. Even if we have all this data in our marketing automation system, there's a possibility it's not all of the data for that customer, or that things have changed. And so when these two things disagree, we want to make sure we have the mechanisms in our company to really trust the customer and make their experience better. I love the fact that T-Mobile did a campaign last year where their promotional campaign was basically, you're going to love this, this is an incredible innovation. When you call them, a human being will pick up the phone. Whoa, what an amazing idea. No voice, menus to go through, a human being. And the human being basically promises they will not transfer you. They will stay with you to resolve the problem. Now, don't get me wrong. T-Mobile is using a lot of technology behind the scenes to empower those customer service representatives. But the customer experience is really human. So as you go into this adventure of balancing these things, I want to put these two axes together, right? Centralize and decentralize, automate and humanize, and look at this almost as four corners of marketing, technology, and operations. We could say like centralize and automate is about efficiency, automate and decentralize is very often where the innovation happens, humanize is where we get into centralized brands, and decentralize is how do we make that real? How do we deliver authenticity? So let's just do a quick run through these four quadrants. What does it actually mean when we're talking about automating and centralizing? Well, in marketing, technology, and operations, this is about selecting the tools we use and standardizing on them. We sometimes call this rationalizing your marketing stack. So you have what you need and you get rid of things that are superfluous. And if you're interested, you can Google MarTech stackies to see literally hundreds of examples of marketing stacks that different companies have put together about how they rationalize their tools. Just to show you one example, Cisco has actually submitted theirs for both 2017 and 2018. And so if you Google MarTech stackies and you look for Cisco, you can actually see how they've thought about the evolution of their MarTech stack. Part of it is standardizing on common data. This primarily comes down to the most important piece of standard data, which is identity, being able to recognize the customer on different touch points that we have with them. We also do things around standardizing processes, and in some ways, we almost think of the marketing operations team and the capabilities they have as a kind of platform for the marketing department. All right, so then as we start to decentralize, what does that get us into? Well, part of it is recognizing, right, not everything can be centralized. That increasingly, you want smaller teams to be able to experiment and to adapt workflows to their specific activities. In some cases, you want to let those teams bring their own tools because your centralized stack doesn't always cover their edge cases. You want to be able to deal with federating data and sharing it across this stack. And then possibly one of the more interesting things is this idea of citizen developers, citizen data scientists, citizen integrators. It is a fascinating time right now where the phrase anyone can cook, I say now anyone can develop, anyone can integrate, anyone can analyze. And I'm going to prove it to you. All right. So imagine as a marketer, over time, you have a certain amount of app-like functionality that is at your fingertips. So how many of you have used Excel, spreadsheet like that? Right? Most of you. This was marketing tech before there was marketing tech. Everyone in marketing knows how to use Excel. Although increasingly, a bunch of marketers also use collaborative tools now like Google Sheets. Same kind of spreadsheet interface, easier to collaborate, but interesting, with Google Sheets, you can also connect it to things like Google Forms, which lets you put a form out on the web, collect data, and then have it go directly into a spreadsheet. And so if you think about this, right, you've now created a tiny little web app for that form, and you're sending it to your spreadsheet, which becomes your own little database. But it gets better. Are any of you familiar with a tool called Zapier? A couple. This is worth looking up, and there's a bunch of tools in this category. I'm just picking one. But Zapier is what they call integration platform as a service. Makes it super easy to be able to take data from one cloud service and send it to another. So for instance, you can take any data from a Google Sheet, and then you can map that to marketing platforms and CRMs like HubSpot, like Salesforce, like Adobe. In fact, you take this up to the next level, there's a whole new category of tools that are sort of spreadsheet-oriented that let people create little applications, things like Airtable. In fact, I just saw one a few weeks ago called Glide Apps that you fill out a spreadsheet, and using this spreadsheet, it will create a mobile app for you. So essentially, if you can work with Excel, congratulations, you're all now officially app developers too. So that's the technology side of the equation. What about the human side of this? Well, when we talk about decentralization and humanization, it's mostly about empowering people. Now, not just marketers, but quite frankly, the entire organization, because marketing is bigger than the marketing department now, right? It's the way in which our salespeople engage with prospects. It's the way in which our customer support and customer success people engage with customers. It's how we think about the product, you know? So how does marketing increasingly empower people at all those different touch points, like T-Mobile was doing with, you know, that ad, to give these people a great experience? How do we give them levers for empathy and intuition? So that, as my example, when I was trying to get that ticket issue resolved, right, you know, I had someone on the phone who understood my problem. They just didn't have the authority to fix it. We need to make sure they do. This is about marketers getting out from the marketing department and getting and engaging with customers in the real world too, to build that empathy. And from a technology perspective, it's increasingly about using tools to help us discover when are things going wrong. With all these different technologies and all these different automations, how do we know when something is starting to diverge from a great customer experience? All right, and then you start to pull that over to the, okay, this sounds like that was quite a build-up to, you know, centralize and humanize, which is arguably where the magic comes together, right? It's because how do we take all of this to empower our teams? Well, one of the things we do is we've all heard of sales enablement. Increasingly, we need marketing enablement. We need to be able to teach the marketing organization how to harness all this technology and data. The vast majority of companies say they do not have the talent or skills to get the most value out of marketing technology. So what do we do about this? Well, just one example. So Airbnb, a very data-driven company. And one of the things they do is they empower everyone in their organization to use data, to make decisions, to help customers. But they realized, when they hire people, a lot of folks actually don't know how to use data effectively like that. So they created a whole data university to teach every employee at Airbnb how to be great at leveraging data. That is modern marketing enablement. And actually, Airbnb shares a lot of the story of how they constructed that university on Medium, so you can learn from them as well. You know, it's about enlightened governance. This idea of saying, what's our customer code? What's our culture code? This might seem like strange things for a marketing technology and operations team to worry about, but this is essential, right? Because this really guides us in how are we using and applying technology to deliver great experiences. And then right at the center of all this, I put change. Because if there's one thing we are all, for better and worse, familiar with now, is how much change is happening throughout marketing. So I sometimes map this where it's like we can agree that technology is changing at an exponential rate in the world today, right? This is Moore's Law, so many examples. Technology just taking off. The challenge we keep running into is we as human beings and the organizations we put together generally do not change at an exponential rate. And so we've got this gap between the two. And again, this becomes one of the things that marketing technology and operations needs to focus. We can't completely close that gap, but how do we get better at dealing with change? How do we become a more agile organization? You know, and this involves ideas like design for change, such as Gartner's pace layering model for saying, hey, not all of our technology is structured the same way. We have systems of record. And then we still want at the top of that stack the ability to experiment with systems of innovation. One of the other stackies you can find on the MarTech stackies is from Microsoft and how they organize their entire marketing stack. Those 3 shades of blue are actually mapped to Gartner's pace layering model as well. We can implement things like agile marketing. You know, about 1/3 of the organizations globally that we've surveyed have embraced some kind of agile marketing. And these aren't just pretty words to say. You know, they come down to very specific management practices for how do we operate in a more iterative fashion? How do we create more of a learning and experimentation engine in marketing? And there's a bunch of things we can do. Red teaming, the concepts around anti-fragility. But really more than anything, how do we deliver an open mindset? So you pull all these things together. The efficiency, innovation, brand, authenticity, and change right at the heart of this. There has never been a more exciting time to be in marketing, and leveraging marketing technology and operations to power that is, quite frankly, where all the magic is happening. Thank you very much.